Hello and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Couchbrotatopodcast. On today's episode, Lucas makes his triumphant return as him and I sit down to give our reactions to the first AP Top 25 college football poll, which was just released on Monday. We also give our thoughts on the rumored Big Ten media rights deal, a little Serena Williams retirement talk, and we also give our thoughts on the Fernando Tatis steroid suspension. So, after the guitar riff, the Couch Potato Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Couch Potato Podcast. I am Russ, and joining us after a 1 week break, Lucas is back. Lucas, what's going on, dude?
Not much. Had to take the break because Tina, our super fan, my girlfriend, went back to work. So wanted to give her a little time to adjust and make sure the kids were all in bed and help her out with everything around here before she went back.
I still don't understand why you just didn't put them in a room
Just
for an hour and a half.
Yeah. It sounds reasonable.
Just let them go crazy.
Yeah. What could go wrong there?
Nothing.
A 2-month-old and a 1-year-old that gets into everything and throws everything.
If I were to do that with my two kids, I would be scared to death that one of them, when I open up the door, would be dead. And actually, I'd put my money on the 3-year-old coming out alive.
She's fucking scrappy.
She is. She is a hellcat for sure. She is the definition of a gremlin. Like, I picture her.
Yum, yum.
Like the scene in the bar. Like, she would be the one swinging off the chandelier.
That's great.
So, any exciting news from the last week or so? Anything new and exciting your way?
Nothing new and exciting per se, but there's a lot of good sports news, a lot of good sports stories, all kinds of stuff going on.
That's right. Before we go into that, I have caught up. I'm almost completely done with the big summer movie releases this year. Spent Saturday evening. The missus and I went and seen Bullet Train. Then we watched Black Phone.
How's Black Phone?
On the Cock. It premiered on the Cock Friday night. I enjoyed Black Phone. I thought it was really good. It's not a straight horror movie like I thought. It's kind of a supernatural horror movie a little bit. Really dug it. Ethan Hawke is super creepy in it, but I really liked it. I would definitely watch it again.
Yeah, I'm becoming an even bigger fan of Ethan Hawke. After watching him in Moon Knight, in my opinion, he was the only good thing about Moon Knight. So,
if you are on an Ethan Hunt kick, I'm thinking of Mission Impossible. I just an Ethan Hawke kick. Check out the Before Sunset, Before Sunrise movies. Those are really good. I mean, they're kind of like romantic dramas, but I think they're awesome. They're really good movies.
I don't mind those.
Yeah, fantastic in those. Reality Bites is awesome too.
Oh, I'll take that. I mean, I have a lot of time sitting with the kids since I'm a stay-at-home father, so
yeah,
I will take those into consideration.
Yeah, and then you can also, when they're wide awake, you could also show them the Black Phone.
I'm sure nothing could go wrong there.
Nothing at all. I mean, they'll sleep like babies afterward. Bullet Train, on the other hand, I thought was solid, but Bullet Train is kind of, how did I describe that? It's
I think you said like McDonald's.
Yeah, it's like eating a McDonald's meal. It's like, it's not the best thing in the world, but it does the trick.
I figure that it's probably one of those things where you watch it, you're happy that you watched it, but you don't necessarily need to see it ever again.
Yeah, it's really one of those movies where, like, I would recommend seeing it, but I would also, if your local movie theater has a bargain day, like here in town we have Bargain Tuesdays where you can get in for like $5. I know some of the other local cinemas in the area are Wednesday, but it's one of those, like, hey, if you can go see it for $5, totally go see it. It's a fun 2 hours, but I think just the big thing is, like, there's too much going on and they really needed to trim a lot of it. It's one of those things where it's probably going to be one of those movies that if you see it on TNT or TBS or FX 5 years down the road, you would probably stop and watch some of it, but I would not go out of my way to watch it again anytime soon.
So what you're saying is in 5 years, you're going to fall asleep in your recliner watching it on TBS.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I do that anyways. I do that with almost everything that I watch on TV nowadays. Now, I will say that there are a couple of characters in that movie that deserve their own spinoff. What's his name? Aaron Taylor Johnson. He played Kick-Ass in the Kick-Ass movies.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm trying to look up the actor's name now. His name's Brian Tyree Henry. Trying to think of what he might have been featured in. Oh, yeah, he was in The Eternals.
Yikes.
Yeah. But I thought those two characters were great. They're called Lemon and Tangerine. They're kind of assassins for hire. They're on this train. Those two are awesome. And I think that if this movie gets to $100 million, which I don't know, it could, those two deserve a spinoff. At least give them like a Netflix movie or a Netflix show. Because those two are great together. I'm curious to see more adventures from them too. But outside of that, Bullet Train was okay. Not great. In my opinion, I still have not seen Elvis yet. And I still haven't seen the Minions movie. Because I'll be honest with you, my 11-year-old doesn't give a shit about the Minions anymore.
Yeah.
And then my 3-year-old's too young to really get into it. So I probably won't be seeing the Minions. But nothing has surpassed Top Gun as the movie of the summer.
Well, that's good to hear.
Which you can
would
finally
been
see.
Very disappointed if it had been surpassed.
Yeah, you will get to finally see Top Gun next week. Finally hitting digital. You can buy it on iTunes and Vudu next week.
Yeah. All right. So are you getting it? Because I'm broke as fuck.
Yeah. I don't know why it's pointless to pre-order a digital movie. It's not like they're going to run out, but I pre-ordered it today.
You never know. Oh shit, that's too many downloads. We got to cut this off.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're selling it to the first 2,000 people. After that, you can't get it till November.
Don't even fucking look at it.
Remember when that used to be a thing though? Like if you wanted like a movie or a game, you had to like if you wanted to guarantee it, you had to pre-order it. Now it's just like,
oh yeah,
who gives a shit now? You know?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of takes. I feel sad for people that won't get to experience that, like standing outside waiting for Halo at midnight or Call of Duty at midnight or waiting for a store to open at 10 a.m. so you can hurry up and make sure you get a copy of it because there's only 20 copies in the store. And if you don't get it there, then you got to drive around town trying to find it. It was fun. It gave you something to really look forward to. Yeah,
I know you said Halo was your big thing. I know me and my brother used to wait until midnight to get the new Madden game.
Yeah, there you go.
Madden and NCAA football when that was a thing. We used to stay up till midnight, and then we'd come home and then play it till who knows, 4, 5, 6 in the morning.
Yeah, I remember my mom got me Halo 2, and I played that thing for 24 straight hours.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, now there's like no way.
It probably wasn't literally because I had to go to school, but in between, I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up in the entire night, went to school, slept a little in school, and then came home, did the same thing all over again that whole entire first week.
Man, those were the good old days when you had no responsibilities, really.
Right.
And now there's no way I could pull that off because Madden, I think, came out today, the brand new one. And I really put some thought into going and buying it. But then, it's like, fuck, okay, I've got my daughter. Like, when would I even get a chance to play it?
That just tells you how far down Madden's fallen on my pecking order. I didn't even know it fucking came out.
Well, yeah, my son's like he's into all the sports games, just like I was. Like, essentially it's Fortnite, Madden, and MLB The Show. That's his wheelhouse. And then to a lesser extent, he plays NBA 2K.
It comes out the 19th, so was that Friday?
Well, I think the All Madden edition came out today.
Oh, the really expensive for no reason.
Yeah, which I guess this year they're giving you the option to if you want to upgrade from like the PS4 or the Xbox to the PS5 or the Xbox, what was the Xbox? The S, the One?
Call it the Series.
Okay, whatever. I mean, you and Adam are like the gamers in this ragtag group of misfits, but if you buy the Ultimate Edition, you can upgrade it for free, but if you do not own or do not wish to purchase the Ultimate Edition, then you've got to be a dope and pay another $60 to upgrade it to the new system.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. Speaking of football, did you catch any preseason football this weekend?
I did not, actually. I was very busy this weekend. You know the story, but my girlfriend's aunt, there's a lot going on with her health-wise, and Tina is the executor of her estate, so did a lot of, running down there and doing some other things this weekend. So
yeah, well, it is. I know a lot of people get really excited for Halloween. A lot of people get excited for Christmas, but to me, we're coming up on the best time of the year for me. Baseball's in its last month, pennant races, NBA and NHL are right around the corner, but the best part is football season starting.
Yeah, and actually, I was watching a thing today on YouTube. Stuart Holden, who does Fox Sports, like the soccer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about the 3-day run that they're going to have on Fox in November. So you're going to have the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Then you're going to have the USA versus England. And then the next day, you're going to have Ohio State, Michigan. Mm-hmm. So that 3-day run, I mean, for me, doesn't get any better than that.
Right. That is a murderer's row of sports programming, which one of the things I really enjoy this year versus previous years is Thanksgiving. I didn't have to go to bed at like 6:30 at night to get up super early so I could actually sit and watch NFL football.
Man, you remember when we worked we'll just call them out by name. When we worked at Best Buy and we had to sit in the back and wait for people to come get their TVs, and we would have to go. I would go in at like 1 p.m. You'd come in at like 3. So we would completely miss Thanksgiving with our family. We'd miss football. And now we don't have to fucking do that anymore.
That is right. You said Fox is going to have that run?
Yeah.
Well, Ed, that's a good segue into the first topic I was wanting to talk about. Last week, it was reported that ESPN and the Big Ten decided to sever their relationship after, 40 years?
40 plus. Was it 43?
Well, let me put it to you like this. I don't remember a time when the Big Ten was not on ESPN/ABC.
Yeah, oh man. When I think about that relationship, I think of, I can't remember his name, but he'd say, down by the old Ntenge.
Oh, that's Keith Jackson. Yeah, see, I grew up as
a
kid. You knew it was a big game in the Big Ten when it was Keith Jackson. At least this is like the early 90s too. I think Keith retired in 2000. Then he strictly went to the did like Pac-10 games. But yeah, you knew it was a big game in the Big Ten when Keith Jackson and Bob Greasy were doing the game.
Yeah, it was always exciting. And I always loved that call whenever Michigan came to Ohio Stadium. Down by the banks of the Olentangy.
Down by the banks of the old Olentangy. We've got arguably the greatest rivalry in college sports.
We got the Wolverines and the Buckeyes.
Hey, you know what? Not too bad Keith Jackson impressions. I think he's looking up upon us right now and say, well, first off, who those two guys impersonating me? And you know what? They didn't do a half bad job.
I'll take that. Usually my impressions are terrible.
They are. I'm not going to sit there. I'm not going to bullshit you. They suck.
Oh, boy. Thanks, Russ.
But, yeah, after 40 years, when does this take place? In 2026,
I think. 2025.
So I think it's 20. Is it 25 or 24?
Fuck, I don't know.
I think it's I think 2024. The Big Ten sports package is going to a combination of Fox, CBS Sports, and NBC. So you're going to get Fox is going to have a big game at noon, and then the Big Ten matchup of the week is going to be on CBS, which is replacing the SEC, which is leaving CBS to go to strictly ESPN. And then NBC is going to have a primetime game.
It's going to be interesting to see the Big Ten on CBS because CBS loves the SEC for good reason. I mean, it's a great conference, but it's going to be interesting to see it on CBS. I want to see the guys that normally do SEC games do a Big Ten game.
I haven't watched. I didn't watch a single SEC game last year on CBS, so forgive me. But is it still Gary Danielson and Vern Lundquist doing the games?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know how many more years Vern's got in him. I mean, I love the guy, but I don't know. I'm going to look it up here real quick while we're talking. But I think the big thing coming out of all this is with NBC getting into the fray now. What does that mean for Notre Dame? Because I believe the Notre Dame TV package ends around the same time the Big Ten media deal takes over. So, I mean, I don't know. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. What do you think that means for Notre Dame?
I'd like to think that they're going to join the Big Ten, which is what we feel, at least me personally. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like they should have always been in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that NBC used to pay a shit ton of money to them. But it just geographically makes sense. They always had a rivalry with Michigan and Michigan State, and they lost that, which really, I like traditions in college football to a certain extent. Like, I know that the big controversy, obviously, we're in Ohio, so we're Ohio State fans, and we really enjoy like the tradition of that. I don't so much care about noon games. I know that that's a big thing, and them having to always wear their scarlet jerseys. I like the blackout jerseys and the blackout helmets. I thought those were sweet. I don't mind those at all. I could tell by your face that you don't agree with me, but yeah, it just when it comes to games, that Notre Dame Michigan game had been going on for almost 100 years, close to 100 years, and they just got rid of it like it was nothing. And I don't like that sort of thing. It's like when I talked about baseball to you. I don't know much about baseball. I said that I'm not watching baseball anymore since they took the first game away from the Reds. That game, the Reds are the very first Major League Baseball team of all time. They're the first professional baseball team of all time. And for them to take the game away from them, I hate that. And that just ruins certain traditions for me. So I would like to see them come back to bring back some of those rivalries, or come into the Big Ten to bring back some of those rivalries.
Yeah, I've always felt that the Notre Dame was a Big Ten team too, just because like geographically it makes sense. And like you said, yeah, they have the games with Michigan and Michigan State. As a matter of fact, Notre Dame's playing Ohio State on Labor Day weekend to open up the season,
which is really fucking cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it makes sense for them to join the Big Ten because I think it's eventually going to get to the point where they're going to have to join a conference or they're just going to get shut out of everything.
Right.
Now, I've read that they could join, but I guess from what I was reading, it could just mean that Notre Dame's it could mean that NBC is going to pay more money for Notre Dame to stay on the network so they have the Big Ten and Notre Dame together.
That wouldn't surprise me. And by the way, when we were talking about it, I looked up a little bit of stuff. Apparently, CBS is losing the SEC to ESPN.
Yeah, the SEC used to be the prime, like one of the prime time games on ESPN. But yeah, it looks like now the SEC is solely going to be on ESPN now.
which kind of makes sense because they have the SEC network that's affiliated with ESPN anyway. It's just going to be strange to not see that marquee 3:30 SEC game on CBS.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a thing for a long time too.
Right.
Because they used to have that theme song. Like, I always associate college football with that theme song that opened up the SEC on CBS.
Kind of like how back in the day you would always associate the NBC basketball theme with the NBA. Mm-hmm. Or at least I did when I was younger.
Okay, I'm just reading a story from Sports Illustrated. This was 8 hours ago. Notre Dame expected to land big TV deal, remain independent. This is from Brian Driscoll from Sports Illustrated. And basically he's saying that right now Notre Dame makes $26 million a year from this deal with NBC. And now they're saying that it could be closer to 70 once they ink this new deal, and it will allow them to remain as an independent in football.
Well, I mean, money-wise, it makes sense, but championship-wise, I don't see Notre Dame ever winning it again. Ever. Because, for one, recruits want to be in those marquee matchups, which Notre Dame still plays maybe once a year. But if you're in a conference like the Big Ten, you're going to have marquee matchups against Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin. Nebraska's not as big of a deal anymore, but Nebraska to a certain extent. And, and like an in-state rivalry with Purdue. So, or Indiana. Yeah. So I know those games would be squash games for them, but it would be a big deal for it to be an in-state type game,
Right. Well, I mean, still Notre Dame is Notre Dame. They're always going to be a marquee program, but like I would think that joining a conference would make sense to them just because I realistically see it going down the road where it's going to be the Big Ten and the SEC controlling college football. And that's it. And I would think that Notre Dame would want a chunk of that TV money from an expanded college football playoff, which I think is coming up in a couple of years. I think they renew that in 2 or 3 years.
24 that it ends.
Yeah. So I would imagine that once that deal is expired, I have a feeling what's going to happen is it's going to be, I see the college football playoffs, expanding to, I think the last I read it's going to be 12 teams.
Oh God, that's too many.
Yeah, but
it is enough.
But I see the TV packages not being strictly on one network, which NBC or ESPN has the rights right now. But I also see that going to more of a model like what the NBA and Major League Baseball do, to where the playoffs are on different networks.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that TV deal is going to increase dramatically if you've got ESPN, Fox, NBC, and CBS all with a piece of that, wanting a piece of that pie. So, I mean, if Notre Dame gets shut out of that, I mean, I think it would make sense for them to be a part of a conference.
What do you think? Probably $2-3 billion for the playoffs next time?
Probably somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah, because I don't remember what the NFL, but the NFL is always getting more and more money, but
yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the English Premier League, I think NBC paid $2 billion for that for 4 years, maybe 3-4 years.
Yeah, and I mean, if the Premier League is getting that kind of money, I know you're a big soccer fan, but football, English or European football is not quite as big as college and professional football here. So I can only imagine what college football, a playoff system, would get. So if it's strictly an SEC, Big Ten running the show, Notre Dame's left on the outside. Granted, they got this money coming in from NBC, but like, as any business person will tell you, that there's no amount of money that's enough,
Right. Yeah, and I don't know why, as a program, you wouldn't want to compete with the best teams and compete for championships.
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, the championship thing. But, yeah, I mean, Notre Dame being a marquee program, they're always going to be able to get marquee matchups regardless of conference affiliation or not. Because that's, like, you take, for example, like, NBC would probably want to schedule, like, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Notre Dame. I mean, that's going to be a game that's going to draw. And then you're also going to get these teams that want to, like, hey, I need to get a marquee matchup on the schedule. So, like, in Oklahoma will schedule Notre Dame, down the road. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a matter of marquee matchups. I think it's just the fact that they're leaving all that extra money from what I predict is going to be the expanded college football playoffs, and the TV deals for that are going to get huge, huge bids.
And I don't know. I guess I don't understand the want to be independent. That's the part that I really just don't understand. I mean, I get the money thing.
Well, that's primarily what it is.
But if you go with the Big Ten, they're saying that they're going to make 80 to 90 million per school per year.
Right.
So that's even more money.
Well, I think it's just a matter of, if you are an independent, you can kind of control where you want to go. You know what I mean? But if you're part of a conference, you still have to, like, okay, well, I've got, how many teams are in the Big Ten now? Like 16? I've got 16 other schools that I have to rely on to determine my fate, whereas,
Yeah. And I was also, like, Notre Dame is a part of the Big Ten when it comes to hockey. So they already have one sport in there. I don't know. It's just, how I feel about Notre Dame. I can't stand that fucking school.
All right, well, there you go. Bottom line, Lucas hates Notre Dame.
Correct.
I don't mind. I don't hate Notre Dame. I'm just like, it's like, okay, Notre Dame's on. To me, they haven't really been, like, relevant in quite a long time.
And that's why I was talking about marquee matchups every week, because I think it makes you more relevant if you're playing better teams every week.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of...
And they were playing in the fucking ACC, playing Duke.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of who they're playing is making them relevant. It's just the fact that when you think college football, it's usually Alabama, Notre Dame, USC, Ohio State. Like, those are the programs that you typically associate with college football. And the fact that, like, USC, Alabama, Ohio State, they've been successful championship-winning programs within the last 20, 25 years, whereas Notre Dame hasn't really accomplished anything. But yet they still get treated as, like an Alabama. Like, they have that rule where if Notre Dame qualifies within, like, the top, like, they get special treatment in the rankings for the playoffs. And
well, it's kind of like Michigan. Michigan hasn't won a championship outright by itself since the 40s. I mean, they had a split championship in 97.
Right.
So that's fucking 1997. I was still a kid in 97. I was 10 years old.
Michigan, I think, falls into the same category as Notre Dame. I mean, they're really not. I mean, they're still a marquee college football program, but they're not a relevant college football program.
And I mean, they still Nebraska too.
Well, Nebraska. I mean, at least Michigan's putting out a winning team most of the time. Nebraska has been like. It seems like ever since they joined the Big Ten, it's just been an absolute, like, dumpster fire.
Well, I found it funny because mentioning that, I seen a thing where they were talking about how when they joined the Big Ten, they lost their recruiting pipeline. Like, why? What's the fucking difference? You moved a conference. You didn't move from where you were. You could still go to Oklahoma and Texas and recruit. I mean, I don't understand what. College football is so confusing to me sometimes.
Well, I think, too, you're starting to see, like, a lot of those players that were going to, like, Nebraska now, like, the Midwest has expanded beyond Nebraska and Oklahoma. You know, Texas A&M's a good football program. You've always had to compete with Texas. And then, like, these kids now, back when Nebraska was kind of a big-time deal, like, you didn't have – I guess it's the access to, like, information is more readily available now. So, like, a kid could easily just watch – that's like a 5-star offensive lineman from Nebraska could easily watch – I don't think you can watch an Ohio State game and say, you know what, I'm just going to go to Ohio State. Or
right.
I want to go to USC. And, like, all those schools now are not strictly recruiting just in their immediate area. They're going, like, Ohio State, as an example, pulls kids from Florida and Texas and California. Same with USC. They're going out to the New Yorks. And, well, New York's not really, I'd say, a football school, but like Pennsylvania. They're getting, you know, the kids from the South, too, and, you know, the Michigans and the Wisconsin. So, yeah, I mean, like, recruiting has expanded so widely in the last 20, 25 years, too. So,
yeah, I think part of its money is really kicked up in college football. I feel like it really started with Miami and USC. And then from there, it just ballooned.
Oh, yeah, now you got these NIL deals now, too, so.
Where you can literally pay for a kid to come to your school.
Right. I just seen LSU's quarterback got all these this money from NIL deals and just decided to withdraw from school.
Yeah. Yeah. You get millions and then you just quit.
Yeah, he got all this money from, like, I think Smoothie King, Raising Cane's, which, man, that sounds really good right now. Yeah, all these like, sponsors, and then he just, okay, I'm done. This just makes you wonder if that's going to be the norm.
Well, I mean, we had a kid here at Ohio State, Ewers. He got all that money. That was his name, right? Ewers, his last name. He got, what was it, like $1 million deal. And it's like, all right, cool, I'm going to Texas. Like, all right, cool. You got all that money. He obviously wasn't going to be a starter this year, but possibly next year. Mm-hmm. Which, who knows, because Ohio State always has fantastic quarterbacks, but at least college quarterbacks, they don't always translate to the next level. But
that's true.
But yeah, he took that money and split. They've got to put a cap on it somehow.
Well, I think that's right now it's too out of control, and I don't foresee that happening anytime soon.
That was my biggest fear with kids making money in college, getting paid to play, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Was them just skipping out after they get a payday. I don't know. I was always on the side of they're getting a scholarship, so do they really need to get paid? But I guess I was the minority there.
I always was on the fence with, like, college athletes simply because, yeah, granted, they're getting paid with a scholarship, but what they're making versus what the school's making off of television deals, selling these kids is like, okay, tune in at 3:30 to see Ohio State versus Penn State. Heisman Trophy candidate C.J. Stroud leads, you know, top-ranked Ohio State. You know, that's advertising a college football game on a network who's paying the Big Ten tons of money. They're selling jerseys with the kid's name on it. When they were doing the whole video game thing, they basically, like, they created these kids. They never used their names, but they had the kid looked almost damn near identical to his real-life counterpart, and they were selling that game, and these kids were, like, not seeing a penny out of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think they should have gotten something besides just a scholarship when they're bringing millions and millions of dollars to these schools, but now it's just kind of getting out of hand now.
Yeah.
To the point where Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher are about ready to throw down at SummerSlam in a barbed wire
farts in there.
A barbed wire inferno match.
That sounds fucking awesome. I'd pay for that.
You may tempt me after we're done recording to go down a rabbit hole on YouTube to see if I can find such a match. I guarantee you that FMW has probably done something similar to that.
Oh, man, that sounds so cool, though.
If I find it, I'll send you the link.
perfect.
I'll watch it tomorrow, or if Hard Knocks is only like 45 minutes, I'll watch that. All right, so we'll table that. So at the end of the day, Big Ten's signing a massive television contract to spread their sports programming over 3 networks. I'm sure the Cock will be involved. Paramount Plus will probably have games too. So the big, and then of course Fox. Does Fox own the Big Ten network? I think they do, right? Okay.
They're a 49% owner.
Okay. So yeah, Big Ten's going to get a massive amount of cash coming soon. So you college football programs looking to move elsewhere, you might want to look at the Big Ten. That's where the money's going to be at.
Seems like a good investment. Notre Dame, you cunts.
Speaking of Notre Dame, yesterday, now this is always, to me, the official kickoff of football season. It's not when the preseason starts, not when the NFL does the Hall of Fame. It's when the AP releases the top 25, which I find the preseason polls to be a bit mundane, simply because the teams, with the exception of like the top 10 or so, usually this isn't how it's going to look at the end of the year. I've always been a champion of wait for 3 or 4 weeks and then rank the teams. But it's still kind of exciting to see where your team's going to rank. So the AP did release the top 25 yesterday. So just to read off the top 10, number 1 is Alabama. Number 2 is Ohio State. 3 is Georgia. 4 is Clemson. 5, Notre Dame. 6, Texas A&M. 7 is Utah. 8, Michigan. 9, Oklahoma. And 10 is Baylor. So what are your thoughts?
Very interesting top 10. I don't know, obviously, much about Utah because the Pac-27 or wherever they are now plays games at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Mm-hmm. So as an old man, I have 3 kids in my house, but I'm a father of 4. I'm tired. I don't have time to stay up until 1:30, 2 o'clock. Even 3 if they go to like 6 overtimes, which is possible. So I don't know a whole lot about Utah. Well,
they did take Ohio State to the brink at the Rose Bowl last year.
That is true.
And I think they have just about everybody coming back too from that team.
Texas A&M is a very interesting team to me. I believe that they had the number 1 recruiting class, or at least pretty close.
Well, talk to Nick Saban about that.
Yeah.
They bought their team.
Well, man, I guess if you got the money.
Man, I really wanted to see them 2 fight. I want to see them throw down.
Yeah. You know what? The season hasn't even started yet, so they may still. I think Texas A&M is a very interesting team. Clemson is always around. Georgia is an interesting team to me because they seem like they're the new Alabama rival for who's going to dominate the SEC every year. Baylor was so good last year, and they just really kind of missed out. And obviously Ohio State and Alabama. Ohio State's got a retooled defense. Alabama's great every year. There's some questions about their wide receivers, but do we really need to question Alabama's wide receivers? They'll be fine. Ohio State, obviously, the big question is defense. Michigan lost a bunch. I think they lost their entire, or at least close to their entire defensive line. Almost all of their sack numbers are going to the NFL. So I don't know if they're going to be as good as number 8. So it's exciting to look at it, but like you said, it's not really realistic yet. We haven't seen any of these teams play. Mm-hmm. And for us, we get to see 2 versus 5 right away, opening weekend.
Yeah, there's 2 marquee matchups to kick off the season on Labor Day weekend, it's you get Ohio State, Notre Dame, and then you also get Georgia versus Oregon, which is just outside the top 10 and 11 too. So,
yeah, and Oregon, they're a much more physical team than they used to be. They're not just speed anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, they could match up. We'll see. I think Georgia, Texas A&M, and Alabama are going to compete for the SEC this year. So we'll see how Oregon does in that game. Usually in these opening SEC versus somebody else games, the SEC usually smashes them by 25, and then ESPN blows their load all over the TV about how great the SEC is.
Yeah, well, I think when it comes to ESPN, I think they're a business like anybody else, and I think they just cover what they know people are going to tune into. Whether it's the right choice or not, it's usually with baseball, they always cover the Yankees since that's the New York market and they're the preeminent team in baseball. They cover LeBron, whatever LeBron James is doing, the Patriots in the NFL, and then the SEC in college football. So,
which are the Patriots still that relevant without Tom Brady? As far as ESPN goes, I don't watch SportsCenter anymore.
They still have Belichick, so as long as Belichick's coaching, which I do have a good idea right before the season starts. I say you and I get a couple other people together. We do the NFL Kickoff Spectacular episode.
Okay. Well, it'll have to be before my...
No one gives a fuck about your referee jobs.
Well, I do because it brings me money.
I'm going to get a letter tomorrow you know what? Can Lucas quit talking about his referee gigs? I don't give a shit.
I haven't even said anything about it on here yet. I was getting ready to, and you shot me down before I could. It was a preemptive missile strike against me before I even did anything.
Yep. Strike. I live by the Cobra Kai mantra: strike hard, strike fast, no mercy. Just looking at the top 10, I think the top 5 is pretty much how I see the season, shaking out at the end of the year. It's going to be a combination of those 5 teams. I think Clemson, though, might be a tad overrated. I know they got a lot of their defense coming back, but I didn't watch a lot of Clemson, but what I did see, their quarterback play was kind of shitty, especially what we had grown accustomed to from them over the last, 7-8 years with Watson and Trevor Lawrence.
Well, another thing is they lost Brent Venables from their defense, and
he went to USC, didn't he? Yeah, I think he's their defensive coordinator there now. I know he didn't get a head coaching gig.
I thought he got a head coaching gig.
Well, keep talking. I'll take a look.
But yeah, so I mean, you don't just lose a guy like that and then automatically replace him. I wouldn't think. I could be wrong. But,
yes. He is the coach of Oklahoma. So he not only got a head coaching gig, he got a very lucrative head coaching gig.
I almost said Oklahoma State, and I knew that wasn't right.
Oh, no. I would know if Mike Gundy had left Oklahoma State. He is my favorite college football coach. I don't like Oklahoma State, but, man, anytime he's doing a press conference, I'm tuning in to watch that.
I'm 40.
Come at me. I'm a man.
I don't know. It's hard to say with Clemson. I mean, they could easily skate through the ACC.
Yeah, because the ACC, I really don't see. Let me take a look here real quick at I've got the top 25 up now. They've only got 2.
I believe they have 5.
Yeah, they've got 5 schools in the top 25, which I think's a little strange considering, just looking at this real quick, Tennessee didn't make it, which I think is crazy considering I think Tennessee with that offense is going to be one of the funnest teams to watch in college football this year. Defense, forget about it. They're not stopping anybody, but that offense is fucking loaded.
Tennessee is one of those interesting schools that kind of lives on the Peyton Manning legacy a little bit, it seems like, because I can't remember a time that since I've been watching college football, which is not maybe as long as well, it's definitely not as long as you have, and maybe not as long as some of the people that listen to us have, but I can't really remember a time when Tennessee was really that relevant.
Well, they won a national title with T. Martin as a quarterback.
How long ago was that?
That was after Peyton Manning.
So, gosh, when did Manning come in the league?
97, 98.
Yeah, see, I didn't even know that they won after that, but it would have had to have been a long time ago, and they haven't been really relevant that I could think of lately.
Yeah, during his junior year, T. Martin led the 1998 Tennessee Volunteer football team to an undefeated season and a Fiesta Bowl victory over Florida State, winning the school's first national championship.
There you go. So yeah, I wouldn't mind Tennessee. I wouldn't mind an SEC team besides Alabama. Alabama's in the West, right?
I think so, yeah.
So I wouldn't mind a team in the East that can actually really compete with Alabama. You know what I mean? Is Georgia in the East? They might be in the East. I don't know a whole lot about the SEC. I remember when Florida was relevant, they would at least challenge Alabama.
It seems like the SEC, their divisions would be lopsided. Like for a little while, you'd have like LSU, Alabama, and Auburn being like 1A, B, and C to win that side, and then like the other side would be like you might get like an 8-4, like Florida team winning that side, and then getting smashed in the title game against Alabama or LSU. And then now it seems like it's Alabama's running the West, and then like the East seems to be the stronger of the two sides too. Well, Texas would be on the same side as Alabama too. So
yeah, they'll have to reconfigure their dividing lines.
Yeah, with
like who's in the
Texas
East and West.
Texas and Oklahoma would definitely be coming into the West.
Right.
I was also looking too. Penn State not rated, which I find kind of surprising considering Penn State lost their starting quarterback, and I think that kind of started their downfall. But he's back this year. What's that kid? I can't think of the kid's name, but he got hurt, and then I noticed that once he got hurt, Penn State wasn't the same team.
It's hard to say. Penn State is so strange. Like they should be so much better than they are. Like they should always be, at the very least, the second best team in the Big Ten East or whatever we call it now. They should at least be a threat to Ohio State. But they're really, like, the last couple of years, they haven't been. And I thought that James Franklin would have been fired by now, but he's got photos of somebody with some hookers or something.
Well, I think James Franklin's got plenty of leash at Penn State, because if you think about what that program went through 10 years ago, even less than that with the whole Paterno thing, and now they're a relevant college football team again, even though they haven't been as good here in the last couple of years. I mean, they're still a pretty good college football program.
Was it him that brought him back or that other guy?
No, Franklin took the job after Paterno was fired. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting...
Because they hired Franklin from Vanderbilt. And Franklin's gotten some, like, he's been rumored at one point or another to be in the running for, like, some bigger college jobs. Like, I think he was being tossed around for the USC job at one point.
Which wouldn't really surprise me. I mean, if you can make Vanderbilt relevant in football, you're doing something, because that's a baseball school all day.
Oh, yeah. It's usually one of it's either a basketball or a football school. If you're not good at either, then yeah, you're definitely like a lacrosse champion, or like Iowa. Iowa's like okay in football, okay in basketball. They'll have like a couple of years here or there where they're really good, but at wrestling, forget about it. No one's fucking touching Iowa in wrestling.
Yeah. Well, Ohio State did for a while there.
Yeah, or Minnesota, another good one.
I was right. Bill O'Brien took over Penn State before James Franklin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about.
So he brought them back to relevance before James Franklin.
Okay. I forgot about Bill O'Brien.
I thought there was somebody in between there, but you're like an encyclopedia of sports, so I didn't really want to argue with you, but I felt like I knew that one.
Oh yeah, hey, call me out if I'm wrong. I'm wrong every great once in a while.
It's a rare one.
But still, though, I mean, under Franklin, he's got a couple of BCS appearances.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's got long leash. I mean, it's not like Penn State was bad. They're just not up to their usual standards, you know?
Right.
And they really strike me as a type of team, too, or program, too. It's like after, all the years with Paterno, they're not one of those schools that, like, is going to, like, axe a coach after a disappointing season. I think Penn State will be much better than their preseason ranking right now.
I think a lot of Big Ten schools will be.
Yeah. So real quick, who's going to the playoffs? Who's your 4 picks?
I'm gonna say USC. I'm going to say Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State.
Yeah, that's who I had too. I have the same 4 that you do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We didn't even discuss that. That's amazing.
I think the Pac-12 is wide open this year. Lincoln Riley is a huge name. I have a lot of kids like decommitted from Oklahoma to go to USC. I have a feeling that USC is going to be one of those teams that like comes out of. I mean, they're ranked like 13th or 14th, so it's not like they're going to be like coming out of nowhere. But I think they're going to be one of those teams that like, damn, I didn't know that they were that good.
I think they're going to be fantastic offensively.
Oh yeah. But they also, if Lincoln Riley is their coach, they might end up choking in the big game too. So
true. They are ranked 14th.
Yeah, I knew they were like 13th or 14th. They were right on the cusp. So, hey, you know what? Between USC, Utah, and Oregon, that Pac-12 might be pretty fun to watch.
At least that championship game where it could be either Oregon or Utah against Southern Cal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the same for what's your national title game?
I'm going to say Georgia, Ohio State.
I'm going Alabama, Ohio State.
So then we're going to say that probably Ohio State will probably be, 2? Alabama 1, Georgia 4, USC 3?
That would have to be what it is, because whoever loses the SEC title game between most likely Alabama and Georgia will be the 4th team, unless it's just a clusterfuck from like 4 to like 7 or 8, and the 4th team is a lot worse than like the loser of the SEC. Like what happened last year Alabama was 3. Yeah, because Cincinnati was the 4. Cincinnati was 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And then, Cincinnati was 4.
Michigan was 2.
Yeah, Georgia was 3.
1. I think Georgia was 1, weren't they?
No, Georgia was...
No. Alabama did win that title game.
Yeah, Alabama was 1 because they played Cincinnati, and then Georgia played Michigan.
That's right.
Yeah. So unless we get a scenario like that where 4, 5, 6, and 7, maybe 8, there's just like not a lot of...
I think the real, there could be 2 shockers that could overtake SC, like in that scenario you're talking about, Texas or Baylor.
Well, Texas isn't even ranked right now, so.
Yeah, but they got a shit ton of offensive firepower that they brought in this offseason.
Well, when we were talking about college football programs that haven't been relevant in a while, there's another one, Texas, too.
True. What, 06?
Yeah, the Vince Young. The most people say it's the greatest college football game of all time. I'm going to say it's 2. I still think the Ohio State-Miami game is number 1, but that's for personal reasons because I've never felt a roller coaster of emotions for a football game more than I did that one. But
yeah, I'd say probably from an unbiased standpoint, that 06 title game is probably the best.
That was a good game. I remember I was in total awe of it. But yeah, I guess looking at it from an objective viewpoint, probably that one, but it's always going to be number 2.
In your heart.
Right.
In our hearts.
I don't know. Well, I mean, there's Baylor, there's Oklahoma. I don't know. It just seems like the Big 12 just kind of beats themselves up, and their top dog always seems to lose to a team that they shouldn't late in the year. And
it's always
completely
like
knocks them out.
Second to last weekend or the last weekend, yeah.
Yeah, like you might see like Oklahoma's like they're in the driver's seat at 3, and then like they get knocked off by like a Texas Tech or
Big 12.
Yeah, I just know the Texas schools, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State.
I know that is it Cincinnati and somebody else, Cincinnati and like Wyoming or some shit are joining.
Cincinnati, I think, joins.
I think it might be next year.
Yeah, I think they join next year because I think they joined in response to the Big 12 losing Texas and Oklahoma.
I think it's BYU, maybe Cincinnati and BYU.
Yeah, I was gonna say BYU makes more sense because they're a much bigger name than Wyoming.
I was just talking shit, really.
Yeah. It's actually next year in the Big 12, it's Cincinnati and Sinclair Community College.
North Dakota State.
Rhett's Tech Center. Got them a football team. Well, we're getting close to wrapping this up. Before we wrap this up, is there any other stories that caught your eye this week that you found?
Yeah, I did want to talk about one of the greatest tennis players of all time, Serena Williams, is hanging it up.
Yeah.
Not a big tennis person, but she transcended the sport so much for me because she was so dominant that I would tune in and watch her play.
Mm.
Those early morning Wimbledon games over there in England and the Australian Open games, just any of the Grand Slams when she was playing. It was always exciting. It was exciting to see, oh my God, this 18-year-old knocked her off and won, their first Grand Slam title. It was exciting to watch her lose, but it was more exciting to watch her win, to see how many she could rack up.
Mm-hmm.
And just her in general, what she did for women's sports, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Serena Williams retiring, it's sad. It's probably time because she's not playing very well anymore. But yeah, I loved watching her play.
Like I had a tennis phase for a little while back. Like I was a junior in high school, like during the heyday of like Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi and those guys. Like I kind of got into the sport for a little bit and watched it. But yeah, Serena, like, can you think of an athlete that is synonymous with the sport more than her with tennis? I mean, like Tom Brady with football, Gretzky with hockey, basketball. Yeah, Michael Jordan with basketball. I would probably say Muhammad Ali with boxing.
Yeah.
I mean, and then Serena in tennis.
Yeah, she's I don't know if Mount Rushmore had like 7 heads, she'd be a part of it.
I think she's got a case for the Mount Rushmore period, regardless of gender. I really do. I mean, like,
true.
She dominated women's tennis for such a long time.
And she did it so like almost nonchalantly. Mm-hmm. Like she knew she was the best. It was one of those things. It was almost like, that we were talking about dominant in their sport. Like when Tom Brady's Patriots would come out, they already beat you. Not because necessarily they were the better team, which they probably were anyway, but mentally you had already lost to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Falcons, that hit them at halftime, but
had them right where they wanted them.
yeah, I don't know, and plus like just what she's done for women's sports. I mean, like she's a role model to any young female athlete. That's somebody that you want to look up to. Still very visible, even when she retires. I mean, I see ads with her all the time, like the DirecTV stuff. So, yeah, man, like that's a huge loss for women's sports, period. Because, I mean, realistically, I don't think there's forgive me, I'm probably missing somebody, but like I can't really think off the top of my head of another iconic female athlete in the sports world right now.
Yeah, no.
Me on Serena's level. I mean, like Simone Biles was kind of in that neighborhood, but not like when I say neighborhood, she's like 4 blocks away from Serena's house. You know what I mean?
Well, and there's a lot shorter lifespan for a gymnast than there is a tennis player too.
Right. And like, the WNBA doesn't really get much traction outside of its niche audience.
Right.
The Olympics are once every, if you count the intervals, every 2 years between the summer and the winter games. But yeah, I mean, like a female athlete on that level, like there's nobody that I can think of. If I'm forgetting somebody, please let me know. But
me personally, I'm thankful for having gotten to watch that dominance. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I hope she enjoys her retirement with her very nerdy husband, which I appreciate that guy. He's co-founder of Reddit, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. He was on Bill Simmons' podcast a couple times. He's a very captivating gentleman. I just can't think of the name off the top of my head.
He's super smart.
I know she was with Brett Ratner for a while, the director of the Rush Hour movies and that fucking god-awful X-Men 3.
Oof.
It turns out he's a fucking dirtbag too.
One more thing I did want to touch on real quick, if you don't mind. Fernando Tatis Jr.
Oh my God. That
getting banned for a half a year.
That shit show. He tried to pass it off as he thought he was getting the medication for ringworm.
Yeah.
Which it's spelled similar to the steroid he got busted for, but it's not the same thing.
Well, I don't mean to pick on these guys, but a lot of guys, the Dominican and the Central America, always, when they get busted for these PEDs, they always go with, oh, it was tainted meat, or I thought it was this. It was something else. I didn't mean to do it. Yeah, the fuck you did. We know you did. Just own up to it. Apologize. Move on. Everybody will forget. It's just the way it works, unless you're Barry Bonds.
I know for him, he's been dealing with a wrist injury, which he got very carelessly. He wrecked a motorcycle and then basically just tried to let it heal on its own. And then by the time he realized that, hey, maybe I should have a professional take care of this, basically his team was already in training camp and he's been out the whole year. And I think he was doing this to accelerate his return. But yeah, the excuse was like, come on, man. Because I mean, like,
it's unfortunate because he was fun to watch too.
Yeah, like he's arguably one of the brightest young stars in baseball, in a sport that kind of needs it. He's my son's favorite player. It was kind of heartbreaking to see when I told my son that news, like kind of the disappointment in his face.
Right.
Yeah, because my son loves Fernando Tatis Jr. It's his favorite baseball player. And I was like, yeah, he got busted for steroids. And you just kind of seen like the dejected look in his face. Like he was super disappointed about it.
And I think these guys, they play a game for a living. They're not, they are human, but they're also, whether they like it or not. And I see it a lot with these NBA guys. Like, I'm not a role model. Yeah, whether you like it or not, you are. There's people that look up to you, and there's people that want to be you. And I think it just sends the wrong I sound very political when I say this, and it kind of sounds crappy, but you're somebody. I have kids. What if they're looking up to an athlete and he gets busted doing something like this? How do you explain that they tried to cheat? I mean, he probably had good intentions of trying to come back, help his team, probably help himself more than anything. But
he just the contract thing. He signed a huge extension. I believe it was in the neighborhood of 300. Like he signed a $300+ million extension. Yeah, 19 months ago, a 14-year, $340 million contract extension, and he's 23.
It's very disappointing. I don't know. That's all you can really say about it. It's just disappointing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like you said, with the role model thing, like whether these guys want to or not, like I remember Charles Barkley, a big thing when I was a kid is he even come out and said he's not a role model, but after Magic retired, Magic Johnson's my all-time favorite basketball player. I was more of a Magic kid than I was a Jordan kid. But after Magic retired, I really gravitated towards Barkley because he kind of had the same build that I did, kind of a chubby kid, really good at basketball. It's like, okay, I'm not built like Michael Jordan. I don't have that lean, muscular physique, but here's this guy who's kind of husky, kicking ass on the court, so I want to root for that guy. And he came out and said he's not a role model, which he's not. If you've heard Charles Barkley, he's kind of like your uncle that, he's kind of a degenerate, but he's so awesome that you look past his faults, which that's what Charles Barkley is. And I love Chuck. Chuck is awesome. But, I mean, he came out and said he's not a role model, but yet I kind of looked up to him anyways.
Right. There's always somebody who sees you on, like somebody younger who sees you on TV, and for whatever reason, like
something you do clicks, and then that's your dude.
Yeah. Like the wrestler Shawn Michaels, he was on drugs hardcore back in the 90s. I fucking love that guy. That guy could do no wrong. Mm-hmm. He was shitting all over Canada. I ate that up. The Montreal screw job, I was all about fuck you, Bret Hart. That's what you get. Like,
that's funny because I was on the other end of the spectrum. I hated Shawn Michaels after that, because I was a huge Bret Hart fan as a kid.
And see, I didn't realize the gravity of it either because it was 97. I was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. So, but it's just these guys are role models whether they like it or not. And there's somebody, especially baseball, try to make him the face of baseball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty much him, Acuna, and Soto are like the guys that baseball's trying to build the sport around right now. And I don't know, he's a fucking moron just between the motorcycle accident and this, and then I don't know, it seems like money has kind of gone to his head a little bit.
I mean, I can't speak from experience because I'll never have $300 million.
Unless our loyal listeners want to send money our way so Lucas and I can live this lavish lifestyle.
I didn't know that there were billionaires that are out there listening that can just throw money our way. But yeah, I don't know what it's like to have that kind of money, especially as a young 20-year-old. Mm. I can only imagine that it would probably go to my head too. But being 35 and having some perspective on life, it's very, very disappointing for somebody to essentially start to throw their life away. Mm-hmm. Because if he doesn't do all the right things from here on out, he won't be in baseball much longer.
Now he'll have $340 million to soothe the thought. But yeah, I don't know. It just, I seen that and I'm like, okay, like I wasn't cool with it, but I get it. It's like, okay, you're trying to come back. And if he would have just said, yeah, I'm trying to come back. I was trying to get back so I could help my team win, because the Padres at the trade deadline went all in. They acquired Josh Hader, who is arguably one of the 4 or 5 best closers in baseball. And then they went huge and emptied out the farm system to get Juan Soto. So now if you were to look at the top 20 best players under 30 in baseball, the Padres have Tatis Jr., they have Juan Soto and they have Manny Machado. That's a hell of a core to build your team around. So, like, they're going for it. So I was like, hey, you know what? Like, if he would have just come out and said, hey, listen, I know I made a mistake. I was trying to get back. I want to help my team win the World Series. Okay, like, it's stupid, but I would have at least seen it. Instead, he's trying to blame it on everybody else, but just never took a bit of accountability for it. He's had all these excuses, and for that, like, I don't have a lot of respect for that. Instead of just, like, owning up to the mistake, you know? I fucked up. I was trying to get back. I wanted to help my team win, but no, it's like he said, I think he likened it to he was prescribed the wrong medication, which he would have had. He would have had the documents to prove that if that were the case, and he would have gotten out of that. But he did. He took something he knew he wasn't supposed to, and instead of just coming clean, it's like, yeah, I messed up, but then, like, kind of wrapped an excuse and put the blame on somebody else.
Yeah. My last thing, and then if you got anything, or we can shut it down, up to you. European soccer leagues are back, which I'm excited about, and the World Cup is in about 97 days, I believe. It's just a little bit over 90, a little bit over 3 months, so very exciting for me.
Oh, cool. I mean, the only thing I knew with the European soccer leagues was that fucking brouhaha between Chelsea and Tottenham on Sunday.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That coach with the shaggy hair, I thought for sure was going to fuck up the dude in the hat. I don't know either of their names. I'm just going to call him Shaggy and the hat guy for all I know. But yeah, I thought I seen that clip, and now I've seen shit on Twitter where they've taken My Way from Limp Bizkit to recreate the wrestling fans will know this. For WrestleMania 17, the main event was Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. They had this really awesome video package to highlight the feud between the two of them, and they had My Way playing behind it. Arguably the best WWE video package for a match they've ever done was that one. And people on the internet were creating, like, little videos with My Way playing behind it, so I thought that was pretty cool. That's the only thing I knew about. Like, you could have told me that the European Soccer League started 2 months ago, and I would have believed you.
It was Antonio Conte and Thomas Tuchel, by the way.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
You know what?
I know you were very interested in that.
Well, if they fight, yeah, I will be. I think that you and I need to organize a pay-per-view event, coach fight, where we get coaches that have had beefs before or have current beefs. We have them fight it out like celebrity boxing, except it's coaches. We main event Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban. They've apparently buried the hatchet, but we'll wait and see when that game comes along. We get those two coaches. I'm sure we can find others.
Yeah, I'm sure we can do Ryan Day and what's his face from up north, Harbaugh.
Do they hate each other to the point where they would fight?
I think so, because Ryan Day said that he was going to beat Michigan by 100 points, and then Michigan came out and won. And Harbaugh said that some of us don't start on third base as a coach, and so yeah, they've been talking mad shit about each other.
Well, there we go. We got an undercard match. There we go.
I like where this is going.
Yeah. Outside of creating a new event, the only thing I had was real quick. We are recording on a Tuesday night, so AEW Dynamite was last Wednesday. CM Punk made his return, so it looks like they're setting up the main event for the All Out pay-per-view, which is Labor Day weekend, to unify the AEW World Championship between CM Punk and Moxley. I thought that was kind of cool. I actually was not expecting CM Punk to be back so soon. So I went from being kind of interested in All Out to, yeah, I have to watch this now. And John Moxley did his Moxley thing where he basically flipped off CM Punk and like kind of did the shoulder check on the way out. So yeah, they're setting up the seeds for that. So pretty excited about that. But outside of that, though, I think we kind of touched base on everything this week.
Yeah, I think it was. I think we covered a lot of good stuff and had a good conversation tonight.
That's right, and it's time for us to wrap this up because, like I said, we are recording on a Tuesday. For those of you that do not watch Hard Knocks and are fans of the NFL, I beg of you to watch Hard Knocks this season. Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell is a fucking rock star. He's the kind of coach that if I played football, I would love to play for. If I were the owner of the Lions, that guy could win 2 games for 10 years straight. I'd still have him on payroll somehow. So, very charismatic, captivating individual. Hard Knocks has been, first episode was really cool. Episode 2 is, it's 11:08 Eastern time, so it just ended. So, wrap this up so we can watch Hard Knocks.
Sounds good, amigo.
All right, well, until next week, we will talk to you guys later. And that will do it for today's episode. We hope you guys and gals enjoyed what you heard. Be sure to follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to get all the latest show updates. If you did like what you heard today, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We drop episodes each and every Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on a single episode of the Couch Potato Podcast. So until next Tuesday, we will talk to you guys later.